I recently participated in an online program for rabbis about how to talk about Israel during the high holidays, specifically during these high holidays. And Rabbi Wolpe, famous American rabbi, expressed something that all rabbis already know. He said, Abriut, Ken. You sneeze on the truth. He said, the more you stay away from Israel, the safer you are. He didn't mean that we shouldn't preach about Israel. He was just acknowledging the truism of the inevitable pitfalls about giving an Israel sermon. And here I go. But perhaps this is really not a sermon at all, actually. Sermons typically convey a particular perspective. They have overarching themes, often a call to action. These remarks that I'm sharing with you now, that are not really a sermon. They're really like a cri de coeur, a cry from the heart. A cry from the heart and a bundle of impressions and a few opinions from one, me, who loves Israel and craves peace. And so I'm giving this caveat. If you disagree with some of what I am about to share, rest assured that I also disagree with some of what I'm about to share. And if you agree with everything that I share, please be aware that by the time I finish this sermon, I might ask myself, Jeff, did you really say that? I watched Hirsch's funeral. Hirsch Goldberg Polen, the Israeli American. Today would be his 24th birthday. Hamas murdered Hirsch along with 5 others as IDF soldiers, Israel Defense Forces, were closing in. The terrorists, instead of just saving themselves and running, killed the Jews first. Thousands gathered for Hirsch's outdoor funeral in Jerusalem. It was a cross-section of the Jewish state. You could see Sephardic and Ashkenazic, secular, religious, old and young, everyone dressed informally except the American rabbi, American-born rabbi, you could tell from his accents, and President Herzog, Yitzhak Herzog, the president of Israel. There were Israeli flags everywhere, and there were flags of Hirsch's favorite soccer team, Yerushalayim Hapoel. When the funeral broadcast began, you could hear from the crowd many singing. It was an unfamiliar melody. But then they started singing a familiar melody, Avinu Malkeinu. I'm really not sure why. The Talmud tells of the origins of the Avinu Malkeinu. The land of Israel was suffering from a terrible drought. It was a perilous time. And many of the sages, our rabbis of old, were fasting and they were expressing these long prayers to try to end the drought, but there was no rain. And then finally, Rabbi Akiva came forward, and Rabbi Akiva kept it simple. Avinu Malkeinu, he cried, our Father, our King, we have no one else besides you. Avinu Malkeinu, have mercy upon us. And that was the end of the drought. Maybe the mourners at Hirsch's funeral were singing Avinu Malkeinu because they were seeking God's mercy during this time of peril for Medinat Yisrael, the state of Israel, and for all of us. Or maybe they were singing Avinu Malkeinu for the same reason that we sing Avinu Malkeinu today and at these services. Maybe it was because they were seeking forgiveness for not being able to save Hirsch. Soon, Hirsch's family filed into view. And you could see from the broadcast that we were watching Jonathan, his father, embracing family and friends. And as he did so, his mother, Leah Polen, looked on, watching her son mourn his son. President Herzog also stood nearby. And when Jonathan embraced him, the president said, "I'm so sorry." President Herzog spoke first, and sorry was the theme of his remarks. Ani mevakesh lachem slicha. I ask for your forgiveness. Several prominent leaders in Israel have apologized, have said sorry, and taken personal responsibility, and even resigned after October 7th. The IDF's intelligence chief wrote, "The intelligence division under my command did not live up to the task assigned to it." The general in charge of Gaza wrote, "On October 7th, I failed in my life's mission." The head of Israel's Security Bureau said, "I feel a personal and ethical duty to apologize." Yes, the terrorists did it. But there were, as one Israeli commentator said, there were colossal failures by Israel. It really takes a brave leader to take responsibility and to apologize. That demands character. Following the president, Jonathan, the father, spoke. I'll begin with his conclusion of his remarks, of his eulogy for his son. He said this: "You were a great guy. I love you." Note the tenses. You were a great guy, past tense, for his son is no longer. And then I love you, present tense, for his love endures father to son. We often say that we loved someone who has died. But do we not still love them? I wish there were a tense for that. I wish there were a grammatical tense that defies time, that expresses the eternality of love and at the same time the immediacy of loss. Like President Herzog, Jonathan Polen begged for his son's forgiveness in his eulogy. Now, this is not uncommon at Jewish funerals. Jews often ask for a mechila, forgiveness from the one who has died, for little slights that they might have made against them during their lives. But these mechilot, these requests for forgiveness from Hirsch's father and from his president were of a greater magnitude. Pardon us for not protecting your life. Forgive us, your father, your nation, for not keeping you and thousands like you, our children, safe. That is a heavy request. That is a heavy, heavy request to seek forgiveness from a murdered 23-year-old. Jonathan also described what Hirsch would teach us, what his son would teach us at this time of peril. You'd say that we must take a chance to end the cycle of violence. And I agree with all my heart. But we know the obvious next question. What kind of chance? How much of a chance? Some among us, for sure, are deeply reluctant to take any chance, even to secure the release of the hostages, whom they, of course, want home as well. This position engenders chasms of pain to the hostage families and to the Israelis who have taken to the streets in furious protests, big numbers. I wish, I have prayed, as probably we all have, that such a chance might be taken. Bring them home. Bring them home. But I understand the reluctance as well. Taking a chance means that terrorists will likely be freed from Israeli jails. Remember, among the more than 1,000 terrorists that were freed for the return of one Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit, in 2011, was the mastermind behind October 7th. So it is no wonder that people are wary. A deal means a risk of the next October 7th. So this is difficult. But as wary as I am, I will trust the many within the defense and security establishments in Israel at the very highest levels who believe that this can be done. I am with those who consider the captives' return the state's highest priority and who believe the time has come. And I note, with all that is happening in the north right now, and there is a lot happening in the north. I don't know if you saw the images of the ballistic missiles coming once again from Iran, and of course all the missiles from southern Lebanon, from Hezbollah. But note, our brothers and our sisters are still captive in Gaza. We must not forget that. And then Rachel spoke, Hirsch's mother, Rachel Goldberg Polen. I took no notes while she spoke. I was wiping away tears. Throughout this ordeal, Rachel Goldberg Polen, her anguish has been eloquent. Her torment has produced poetry. In November at the March in Washington, which I attended with some of you, she said this, note the language, born from pain. She said, we all have third-degree burns on our souls. Our hearts are bruised. We are sleeping with misery. At the UN the next month, she said, we all remain sleepless, and we all are running to the ends of the earth. We act like people, when really we are other beings, frozen in our acutely agonizing desolation. And hope, she said, hope is mandatory. Near the end of her eulogy for Hirsch, as she concluded, she said something, and as she did, you could hear gasps and sobs from the people in attendance. She said this, it is painful. Okay, sweet boy, go now on your journey. I hope it's as good as the trips you dreamed about, because finally, my sweet, sweet boy, finally, you are free. Hirsch was not free in the final year of his life, but finally free forever in death. Rachel and Jonathan, Hirsch's parents, throughout the agonizing desolation, always declared the imperative of finding a better way forward. And they were unfailingly sensitive always to the plight of Palestinians in Gaza. Those people deserve better. And we all do. And there must be a better way forward. Throughout this last year, I keep thinking to myself, Israel is a wonder. Israel is extraordinary. In other words, extraordinary. It is beyond ordinary. It's a startup nation. It made the desert bloom. It collects Nobel Prizes. It changed the very character of the Jewish people, creating the new Jew. It sustains a vibrant democracy. Its very existence is a bona fide modern miracle. That nation, that brilliant, beyond imagination nation, I keep thinking, it must be able to figure this out. Yes, I know. All the reasons that cannot happen. Fundamentalist enemy, no partner for peace, etc., etc., etc. We know. But Israel is a nation of dreamers. Israel is a nation of pioneers. Im tirtzu, ein zo agadah. If you will, it is no folktale. It is no dream. So can't a solution to its most vexing problem Can't a solution to a problem that consumes the lives of its innocent people, of its young people, can't a solution be dreamed and imagined and cajoled and willed and worked at and purchased and compelled into existence? I know that solution seems very far off, far, far away, as far as one can imagine right now. I know Israel is fighting a just war, an obligatory war. I know that Israel must defeat those who have breached its borders with thousands of terrorists, tens of thousands of missiles. But I also know, I know this, and we all do. I know that the Jewish state is too good to be plagued by this grinding problem. I know it's too good for its citizens to live in fear. It's too good to suffer from a yeridah, a flight of its youth in particular to other lands. It's too great for its decision makers to be in the thrall of radical rabbis and their brainwashed students intoxicated by messianism, hatred, and testosterone. Israel is too great for all of that. It's too great to have become accustomed to this heartache decade after decade. It's too great for its children to live in peril for the next 75 years. Hirsch was one. He was but one of them. There have been far too many funerals. We must believe in a better future for our beloved Jewish state. The Goldberg Polen family has not abandoned hope. It has not succumbed to despair. It has also not succumbed to the heroin of prejudice against our enemies, which some of us are succumbing to. It is not delirious with a desire for vengeance. They have not abandoned hope, because they who made Aliyah from the comfort of America to Israel believe in an aspirational Zion. They believe that the Jewish state was made for better things, that this democracy amid autocracy, this light amid darkness, was made for better things, yoter tov, a better future. And if they believe it, shouldn't we? And so we pray. We pray not for an Israel that can make pagers explode in the pockets of its enemies, as wildly impressive as that targeted attack on Hezbollah was. But we pray an even bigger prayer. We pray for leadership that might envision a better way forward. We pray for an Israel that someday will be able to devote fewer of its precious resources, its money, its lives, to war, and more to its scientific and cultural development. We pray for an Israel that continues to lift up this world in all the ways the Jewish people have always lifted up this world, and more. We pray with the prophet Micah that everyone in that land will sit under their own vine and fig tree, and that none will make them afraid. That's our simple prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Va'anenu, Ki Ein Banu Mahasin, Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah V'Chesed, Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah V'Chesed, V'Hoshi'enu. Our Father, our King, be gracious and answer us. Please, God, may the shattered and violent 5784, the dark and perilous year just past, be transformed into a peaceful and whole 5785, a year we now welcome, as we Jews always do, with mandatory hope. L'Shana Tova.